pretty negative backlash to GPT-5. More consistent outputs, way cheaper cost. I think you were saying 90%?
Yeah.
Elon's own model said that he was wrong.
You could tell O3 to not use M dashes 10 times. It would use an M dash. It would be like, you're absolutely right, M dash.
What color is the sky? The sky is blue, and the reason why is Rayleigh scattering.
Why are so many people upset that 4.0 is gone? It really should just be...
Are we just going to talk like this the whole time?
We're recording.
Oh, we are? Oh, nice. Solid. What have you been up to lately in AI, Jeff? What's on your mind?
My goodness. Wow.
GPT-5 is out?
GPT-5 is out.
Yeah. You're going to DevDay, right?
Yep, going to DevDay. That'll be fun.
Why? What's DevDay? You want to tell people?
Oh my gosh, DevDay. Well, DevDay is the OpenAI conference. So the developer-focused conference, I think it had some infamous moments at DevDay, and so let's see what happens this year. I think it should be fun.
What are some of those infamous moments for the uneducated?
There's one in particular was the impetus for Sam Altman's oust at some point.
I remember.
They announced structured outputs, and that was apparently the breaking point. It's like, we can't do JSON mode. It's too much. We've gone too far.
Yeah.
And so, well,
That's exciting.
We'll see.
Maybe just to dig a little bit deeper on DevDay, because I think it's interesting. Then maybe we can talk about GPT-5 and then anything else that's top of mind for this more casual episode. What are you most excited about for DevDay? What's top of mind? I think you're giving a presentation as well, right?
Potentially.
Potentially. Let's say you were. I don't care if you are or not. Right. What would you talk about at DevDay if you could? If I gave you the platform,
wow.
What are you going to communicate to everyone?
I've been thinking about, we work with a lot of different inference providers. The API structure matters a lot. Like kind of the way that you interact with these models matters a lot. The OpenAI API has changed a lot in the last 6 months. They have the responses API. Like, this is a pretty big departure from chat completions, which was the industry standard. All the reasoning models, I think all the advances there, that's changed a lot of just how you interact with these models and how you get the best performance out of them. So there's just there've been a lot of changes, I think, in the last 6 months. So I think we're still trying to squeeze the juice out of these models.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of interesting trends that you mentioned there, right? So number one is there's been a migration from the chat completion endpoint as the standard to the responses API.
That's right.
Number two is we have GPT-5 now, which I think is actually in some ways, I'll get into this later, bringing back prompt engineering.
Sure.
Because before it was like, oh, you can prompt engineer specific things for different model types. My experience with GPT-5 has been I have to be super specific about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it so that it will pick the right type of inference to use.
Yeah.
Are there anything else that you think are like changes in API practice that you want to touch on before we dig deeper?
I think, maybe the other, the thing that we're trying to maximize a lot is just maximizing cache hits and just for many reasons. For one, there was a change in GPT-5 where if you get a cache hit, it's 90% less expensive than if you don't get a cache hit. So like a big change in price. It used to be 75%, so still like a pretty big step down in price. But it's now big incentives to keep things cached and just all of the latency sensitive applications. If you hit the cache, you're basically skipping a ton of actual inference work. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, and then so to keep this relevant for a lay people's audience, let's go in this order. First off, actually, how would you describe a cache hit and why does it matter and why is it cheaper?
Yeah, the nature of the transformer models is they're autoregressive. So basically, the state of the model is every new token builds off on all of the previous tokens, or at least the sequence of tokens up until that point. And so if you change even one token in the sequence, you have to completely redo the entire sequence.
It has a waterfalling effect throughout.
Exactly. Right? But if you do keep the if you don't change anything, you can actually generate an output, maybe make a tool call, get some new information in there, and then you'll hit the cache and you basically get all that information. Again, free latency and then much cheaper. So that's kind of the advantage there is like but the trick is you can't change anything in the sequence. So it changes actually the way that you build a lot of these agents. And I think people are have been figuring out the right way to build agents. Like, are there sub-agents? Are there kind of agents talking to each other? Are there kind of different conversations that are filtered together?
Right.
What's interesting about the caching piece of this is that it really incentivizes you to basically have one main agent and basically just have agents as a single conversation with tools that goes on for a long period of time. And yeah, it's interesting.
I do think it's interesting, like the caching. So I think I think engineers are probably going to understand what you're talking about, but like I'll provide a little bit of the layman's explanation of caching as well. So if you're using Clay or you're using like N8N or Appify, a very simplistic way of thinking about caching for me is, let's say I have a prompt that I'm going to run consistently over and over again. 80% of that prompt text is the same. It's like, you are an expert copywriter who is focused on cold outbound techniques, who knows things from Seth Godin, Adam Grant, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Right? But then every automation I'm running, I ideally want to be outputting copy for a different person. So it might be, now you are writing an email to insert variables here, and variables might be, this email is for Jeff Barg, who is the AI software lead at Clay and who has really weird profile pictures, right? Things like that. And if you place basically that dynamic part up front, you're going to lose the value of the cache because you have to think about order matters in AI models. And so because the thing that's different comes up front, then everything afterwards sort of changes in the way it gets processed. But if you place only the dynamic information at the end, it's literally the same thing, just putting context at the last part instead of the first part. Not only do you get more consistent outputs because of the way the auto regression works, you also get way cheaper costs. I think you were saying 90%?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So that's, I think, just like a helpful thing for people to think about, whether you're building production grade systems or you're actually building them in tools like Clay, N8N, et cetera. We could probably keep talking about caching, but I do also want to touch on, because I'm less experienced with this and I'm just curious, what are the big differences in how you're building agents and models between the completions endpoint and the responses endpoint? Because all I've done is like try to use it once and be like, this is different. Interesting, not relevant to my work, so I'm going to go back to doing it my way.
Yeah. There's a big developer experience difference, right? It's just it's a different endpoint. You kind of you store messages on OpenAI server, so you don't need to keep track. You know, one of the kind of weird properties about the chat completions endpoint was, if you're doing kind of these long multi-turn agents, you have to store the message history for up until the entire point in time. And the responses API, it kind of makes it look a lot more, or feel to a developer a lot more like ChatGPT, where it's just like, you just give the next message and you give kind of the conversation ID, and it'll just continue the conversation.
That makes sense.
I think that's kind of that was the headline kind of difference, I think, between these two things. There are some other strange differences, or just idiosyncratic things. In the responses API, there are restrictions on structured outputs that you can do. It's not kind of just an entire JSON schema, validation. You can't actually do all of that.
What are the restrictions?
They're somewhat
arbitrary?
Strange. They're somewhat arbitrary. They're seemingly arbitrary. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I actually should look into this more. They just as an example, you can't have numbers that have a minimum and a maximum. So this is like part of the JSON schema standard, but you can't do that. You can't do things like, hey, you can output a string, you can describe the string, but you can't say, well, it should be formatted like a URL. So you can't kind of give these
interesting
subsections of things.
But that must then, therefore, also have a bunch of impacts on how you're supposed to be prompting anything that's using these models, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Because that's actually, now that, like, I didn't know what you were talking about until just this moment.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I've definitely done that in prompts. And now I understand why or why not that hasn't worked well.
Yeah. I would assume the reason they have these restrictions is actually because it's probably easier for the model to output in the kind of limitations that they impose. They did actually, this was one of the other things that they did with GPT-5 is they have tool calls that can have an arbitrary, I think it's a context-free grammar that's associated with them. So you can basically, you can describe any kind of grammar and the model will output that. So you can say, well, it should be YAML, or it should be, which is interesting. I think those are, and those are probably, I'm sure people are trying, different versions of this to see which will actually make the model output the best. Models are kind of notoriously bad at outputting JSON, even though they're trained on it. JSON's kind of a awkward language for models to output. And I think that's why they did this context-free grammar shift.
That makes sense.
Is because especially, for these models to output, for their coding ability, to output Python or JavaScript formatted as JSON is really awkward.
You're putting Python code or JavaScript code inside of a JSON blurb is what you're saying?
That's right, yeah. And the models have to reason about how do I both output great code and format
Make sure
that
it's
code?
formatted in JSON. Honestly, even as a human who knows how to do all of that,
it's impossible.
It would be impossible.
No, it's
it'd be difficult.
That's right.
I'd be like, is a quotation mark and the comma go here or here?
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and yeah, imagine you have Python code with string manipulation in it.
It's crazy.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I guess that's another light bulb moment for me, and that I'll go look into this afterwards, and maybe we'll put with this podcast, is I'm going to go look at now what are all the differences in semantic prompt instructions on the responses API so I can improve my overall prompting ability.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting segue to thoughts on GPT-5.
Yeah.
I know we had early access, and I remember you gave it to me, and then I accidentally leaked our API key on LinkedIn, but then we deleted it, and then we
confirmed there was no usage. Yes.
Yeah, we confirmed that we're safe, so
right.
we're good. I told you this is super unprompted. But I thought it was pretty impressive at the writing quality output when I was testing it via API from what you gave me.
Yeah.
I only used 3 or 4 calls because I didn't have time to go further. Sure. I do think it's interesting that, at least in the circles I'm in, I don't know about you, pretty negative backlash to GPT-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Yes. So I've definitely heard the same backlash.
Yeah,
I think.
cool.
So I don't know if we're in the same circles, but it's at least.
I imagine you're I think of us as your engineer AI, deep tech, and want to be AI knowledge business tech.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something in between.
Unanimously. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. I think maybe on the AI engineering front, definitely people were thinking that GPT-5 was going to be the Claude 4 sonnet killer.
Right. Which it is definitely not.
I wouldn't say definitely not, but I think it probably doesn't.
Currently not is what I would say in its current form. Yeah.
It's different. So I think that's for sure. It's
like apples and oranges in my mind.
Yeah.
But continue. Yes.
My impressions of it, and this is just anecdotal from my experience.
Right. Yeah.
Is it's very good at debugging, probably better than Sonnet or Opus.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that O3 was probably pretty good at this too.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But it's not as good at the vibe coding. Just kind of give it an open-ended idea and have it go off and do it.
Right.
So that's too bad. I think it'd be great to kind of have both of these things in the same model. But yeah, it's still quite fun. The other thing that I definitely noticed was just the harness of these really matters. Claude Code is a great harness. It's so good.
That's fair. Yeah.
And Codex is not that good, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
The Cursor agent is now a thing, so they have their own Claude Code.
I've been using the Cursor agent. It's super fun.
So but yeah, still I think these harnesses are kind of catching up to Claude Code, which is just the state of the art here.
Current state of the art. Yeah. I think in recap, so it sounds like we've been hearing the same things. A bunch of people were really excited about GPT-5 for specifically coding use cases.
Yeah.
I think the overwhelming consensus from people, which I haven't tested too much myself, but I take everyone else's word for it, no one's switching from Claude Code to GPT-5, at least in the current moment.
Yep.
I do still maintain, which might be a hot take, that for some of the blog writing, email drafting type use cases, I actually kind of like GPT-5. I think it feels a little bit better, at least in the couple of chat completions I've been training it now on. If I give it enough context, instruction, personalization, it is similar but differently better from Opus 4.1 at trying to mimic my tone or give me something that I would actually get very close to publishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that's the biggest. I think it's criminally underrated at writing. I think
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
no one's been like, oh, it's pretty good at writing. I'm like, it's pretty good at writing.
It's really good.
I use it at writing. Yeah.
It's really good at writing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, cool. Cool. I feel, I've been nervous to post about that.
Okay. No, I think it's really, really good at writing. And the other thing that is probably, I think where people are running into some pitfalls is it's much more steerable than the older models.
Right.
So one thing that you can test, and it's pretty good, is you can say don't use M dashes, and it won't use M dashes.
Yeah. It listens to style, tone, and voice far, far better than previous models have.
I mean, you could tell O3 to not use M dashes 10 times. It would use an M dash. It would be like, you're absolutely right, M dash. I guess you're absolutely right is Claude, but it was still it would just you could not.
Yeah.
They were just all the tells that this is AI copywriting. GPT-5 you can really. Maybe someone will find some tells that'll be hard to shake, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think maybe the last two topics that we can quick rush through this because I think they're related are, I find it fascinating to think about the way in which society is adapting and using models. So one thing that we could talk about is I think OpenAI just put 4.0 back in model selection.
Yep.
And Sam Altman had a whole public apology on Twitter.
That's right.
Which is now reminding me of the whole Sam Elon feud that went viral. That it would just be a fun tidbit to include.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I would include is maybe something along the lines of like where we see human model relationships evolving because of the like GPT-5 paradigm. And it sounds like the Jeff Yash takeaway is that GPT-5, not it, at least just yet for coding. Very it, actually, for writing.
Yeah.
I've been switching over to GPT-5 for most of my writing, and I've been like, no one's talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think on the coding front, like we'll have to see. Like, I mean, I think it. I wonder if it's similar to the writing thing, where it's a very steerable model. Like,
so you have to just figure out how to actually work with the nuances of it.
I wonder. I mean, and I wonder if that's like Codex and Cursor are going to figure out the right ways to system prompt this to be more like Sonnet.
Interesting.
So we'll see.
So maybe in 2 weeks we'll come back to this and you'll be like, GPT-5 is the best thing since sliced bread.
We'll see. Well, one of the fun thing actually with their API, I think they've been. It was an interesting rollout, I think, of GPT-5 across the board. But their API maybe 2 days ago got, I think, 30% faster because they found some bug in their inference stack.
That's super significant.
Incredibly significant.
Wow. I wonder. I hope whoever found that bug got a big pay bump.
I hope so. I don't know how much we're supposed to talk about that, but you could see. I mean, people were talking about it on Twitter, where it's just like, did GPT-5 just get a lot faster?
It's noticeable. So therefore,
that was interesting.
That makes sense. But yeah, I'm curious about your thought on this whole like. So we have 4.0 back.
Yes.
There's a world in which 5 is a better model, but people are just used to the paradigms in which we've been prompting 4.0.
Yeah.
And I don't know. For me, it felt sort of obvious for a while that like what we're talking about as AGI would just be, I can say what's on my mind and the model's going to interpolate it for me and then get it back to what I actually want. But GPT-5 is not necessarily proof of that. Like, do you think it's actually possible for us to get to a point where AI is actually that good? Do you see there's this constant debate about whether or not prompt engineering is going to be a viable skill in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure.
And I feel like every model selection either pushes that ball forward or backwards.
Yeah. I mean, I think my sense of what they were trying to do with GPT-5 was they, if you think about 2022 to 2020, let's say 2023, it was just pre-training scaling. And so it was just making, more web data, more compute, just make the transform, more parameters, make it better.
Right.
And then the last year, so it's been about a year since the O1 launch. We've had reasoning models. And so it was like, you basically could spend more compute at runtime to actually get better results. And it turns out that worked. So O3 was, actually just a better model, right? Like if you could get O3 in the same latency as 4.0, everyone would probably prefer it. Maybe not, but it was
most likely
generally a better model. And I think what they were trying to do with GPT-5 was like, let's take these two ideas and just put them together. And like users shouldn't really think about it. We'll select the right thing and we'll route to it. I think they had some very bad rollout here where like the router was broken and so whatever. But that was the idea.
Yeah.
I think there was also just people have these very effective relationships with LLMs, and that was and I think it's probably a power law where some users are very vocal about the relationship they have with certain models and the interaction patterns they have with them. And so that's I don't know what that says about the world, whatever, but it's certainly interesting. The other thing that's interesting, I think, about probably where we'll be in a year is last year kind of O1 was out, but it was extremely expensive. It was really slow. It wasn't even out. Like it was just kind of a research preview, and like it barely worked. It's kind of like but all the people at OpenAI were talking about, we're going to invest everything in this, basically. We're going to make this the future. And then O3 was really good. And so like, we're now...
I miss O3.
I miss O3 too.
Yeah.
But GPT OSS is like an O3 level model that can run on your computer.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, a year from like when O1 was barely a thing. And so
that's true.
I think what they're talking about now is, well, it's all about personalization of these models. It's just kind of like, well, why are so many people upset that 4.0 is gone? It really should just be, well, everyone has their own kind of model that adapts to what they want and what their workflows are and their interaction patterns.
Yeah.
And, that probably looks like some combination of memory. It probably looks like some combination of, fine-tune models for you, and some deep personalization of actually the model to individuals.
That makes sense.
I wonder, that it's kind of like DevDay 2026. It would probably have been that'll be the big transformation over the next 12 months is what I would guess. But
that makes sense. Yeah, and I guess maybe our closing point for this chat, since we got to keep adding a fun, relevant current event. I don't know if I would call this a current event, but you saw, of course, right? The Elon, Sam spat on Twitter.
I did. Yeah.
So for the people who haven't seen this or heard of this yet, tell me if I'm getting this wrong because I read it a few days ago.
Sure.
Essentially, Elon posted, as Elon does, and increasingly, I'm just going to say Elon ways.
Sure.
Some sort of tweet about how OpenAI has remained at the top of the App Store, and it's a collaboration with Apple to keep all the other AI apps down, and it's a violation of antitrust.
I think he's still going. I think he's still still.
It's funny because I remember reading some of his tweets afterwards and being like, "Is that Trump typing it, or is it Elon?" I feel like they're just mind melding together. Even though they've now separated in terms of their affiliation.
Sure.
But then Sam responds, "No, that's just factually untrue. DeepSeek has risen above. There's another one that I'm blanking on. Maybe it was Manus or something else.
Sure.
And then Elon responds in anger and says, "You got so many more views than I did. You liar, you cheater, you horrible person." And my favorite, I think in my opinion, Sam won this debate.
Sure.
He just goes, "Skill issue."
Right.
And then a bunch of people asked Grok to verify the eligibility or the accuracy of Elon's claims, and Elon's own model said that he was wrong and he was falsely blowing up things. And he's been accused of modifying the X algorithm to boost his own posts and censor what people see. To me, just in my summary, it feels very much like, have you ever seen the show Silicon Valley?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Some people feel like it hits too close to home, for whom I would say, if you work at a startup, do some inner work there. You got to be able to laugh at yourself.
The uncanny valley of just,
Exactly. It's such a good representation, and it's crazy how long ago it was made and how accurate it is. Gavin Belson scrubs the internet search at some point in that show, which is kind of what Elon has done on Twitter.
100%.
Yeah. Or X, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still Twitter,
Yeah, it's still Twitter. So yeah, it's your little... Any thoughts on that latest bit of tech drama?
I think it's interesting. Both of those models, if I think about Grok and GPT-5, these were both launched and kind of to not great reception. So I wonder if this is kind of just the way that they're coping with that, is the kind of the very public spat. But I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see what happens with XAI. I think that's kind of the real...
That's the real question. I mean, I think part of the feud is just to get into the business of it, right? XAI made Grok. Grok used to be pay for play, and people were saying it was good, but they really wanted to rock it up. Elon opened it up to everyone. Anyone could use Grok for free. No movement on the App Store ranking. Right. I think the man is just upset. But I do see people talking about how useful Grok is, after it got past the biased, genocidal answers.
That's right.
We can cover that too later. There was a period of time during which you could ask Grok anything.
Right.
And no matter what you add, I actually did try this. I was like, what color is the sky? It was like, the sky is blue, and the reason why is Israeli scattering. And it would be like, also, have you noticed it's probably because of South African apartheid, genocide? I was like, why is it including that in every single response?
Yeah.
Clearly, Elon or someone else, manifestations or mistakes, I think, is what ended up being the real answer. The tech drama is interesting. It's not really relevant to the rest of our conversation, but I think it's fun to stay on top of as we continue to chat.
For sure. I mean, it's got to filter its way down into the actual decisions of these companies in some way or other. So.
I mean, we're living through history right now is kind of how I think about it. I think, in good ways and in tough ways, there's a lot happening around the world that I think we're going to look back on in 20 years and be like, holy shit. We were alive when that was happening.
We were there. We were talking unprompted. We were
we were speaking unprompted. Whether or not we'll look positively back on this. We'll grab a beer or a Diet Coke in 20 years and look back on it. But yeah. Call it? Sweet.
Call it, yeah.
Right, let's call it.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, listening. Yeah.
That's right.
If you guys have things that we should talk about, let us know, because we are truly just riffing here.
Yeah.
And someone did tell me, actually a couple of people told me, that they would love to see us walk through some AI workflows. That feedback is noted. And we're just going to keep this low effort and low friction for us. So maybe we'll do it at some point.
Yeah.
But we probably won't. So if you have other ideas,
That's right.
let us know what else you'd like us to talk about. We can talk abstractly about how we would prompt engineer at some point. That could be a fun one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That'd be fun.
That's the only thing I would
That'd
say
be a good one. Yeah, yeah.
for anyone watching. Sweet.
Alrighty.
All right.
Until next time.